Once you're used to using the basic rules for multiplication and division, you need to be able to use them to solve equations and simplify expressions. So we have multiplication, we got division, and so now we've got to look at expressions and deal with them. And the way we do that is we use the order of operations, which is commonly referred to as PEMDAS, where parentheses are dealt with first, then exponents and roots. Multiplication and division are inverse operations, so we deal with them from left to right. And addition, and this is an S. Addition and subtraction are also inverses, so we deal with them from left to right. So we have these rules for multiplication and division. We have our order of operations. What do we do? Well, let's just set up a problem. We'll just make up the numbers as we go along. -2 times -1 times -1 times -1 in parentheses plus, let's say, -12 divided by -4 divided by 4, and then times 2. Okay. So typically what you'll see is a bunch of numbers in a parentheses, another group of numbers inside of parentheses, and then some kind of operation, in this case addition, tying them together, and then at least one other operation. We're going to avoid the exponents and the roots, which is right here in this example, so we're just focusing on multiplication and division. So for multiplication, we'll start here in this parentheses in our operations. These dots right here indicate multiplication. A dot could equal multiplication, and I guess I'm not being very consistent right here, but I'm sorry about that. This little x also equals multiplication. Another form of multiplication, just in case, instead of an x here, you might see something like this: -12 divided by 4 in parentheses, and then just the number 2. Whenever you see a number next to a parentheses like that, it usually means multiply. So for example, if you saw 2 parentheses 4, that means 2 times 4. Or you might see something like this: 2 and then 4. All these are different ways of saying multiply. So in this parentheses right here, that's my order of operation, dealing with parentheses first. I gotta multiply. Now before I draw a number line and hop back and forth to figure out what's happening, what I usually do is first think about, okay, will the result of these factors being multiplied be positive or negative? And if I remember one of the most important rules of multiplication, it's that if I have a negative times a negative, what I have is a positive. And that is so useful to me because I always think about this in the sense that whenever I have a long list of numbers, every 2 numbers that are negative will result in a positive value. So these 2 numbers are negative, positive, and these 2 numbers are negative. Multiplying like gives me another positive product. And then in the end, we'll have a positive product. So what I'm saying to you is that if you're multiplying some factors and they're negative or positive, count the number of negative numbers. If it's even, because every pair is positive, then your product will be positive. If the number of negative factors is odd, then the product will be negative. So this is a positive number. What is it? Well, now I can kind of disregard the positive and negative values and just multiply 2 times 1 times 1 times 1. Fortunately, 1 times 1 times 1 is just 1, and then times 2 is 2, so this is just 2. Plus, well, now I'm going to solve these parentheses right here, and inside the parentheses I have division, so it's -12 divided by 4, which is -3. Division and multiplication have the same rules in the sense that if we have one number that's positive divided by another that's negative, or the reverse, the result will be negative. So what I do is I again identify, is my quotient going to be negative? Yes, because I have a negative here and a positive there. What's it going to be? Well, I just solve 12 divided by 4, and there's my answer. We have times 2. Okay, now what do we do? Well, there's nothing left to do with this number right here, so I'm just going to rewrite it as 2, plus multiplication is next in PEMDAS, so I'm going to try -3 times 2, which is -6. Again, just like division, if I have one number that's positive and another number that's negative, and I'm combining them and finding the product or quotient, my answer will be negative. So here's -3 times 2, and that's -6. To find this answer, I think about, well, I actually kind of picture what I call a chipboard. So there's 2 positives and then 6 negatives. Well, very quickly I realized that these will cancel out. Positive, negative, that's 0. What's left over? The answer, negative 4. So when you're applying multiplication and division, one thing to always try and keep track of is what the product or quotient will be. Will it be positive or negative? And to do that, you can count the number of negative or positive signs. If the number of negative signs is even, then the result is going to be positive. If the number of negative signs and negative factors is odd, then the product or quotient will be odd. The positive signs, I guess the only time you can really count them is if every number is positive. Then your result is also positive.